the video again.
We've got it. We're all underway. Okay, fantastic. Good
I'm
evening,
not.
everyone. Thank you for joining us. Really good to see you all here, and welcome to our first People's Food and Farming Alliance partnership gathering, if you like. I'm very pleased to finally welcome Amanda here from down to Earth Stroud, who are a very seasoned group of people in terms of the community growing side of things. So what we want to do is Amanda and I are going to have a chat. I've got a few questions for her, and I wanted to share a bit more of what they've been up to, and hopefully it'll inspire, motivate you guys, give you some ideas. And then we'll have a brief Q&A at the end, so you can give your feedback and ask any questions you might have of Amanda. So Amanda, lovely to connect. So glad you made it. Sorry that you had to suffer some technical issues.
Oh, it was dreadful, but just so you know, I can't see anything at all.
Okay. Can you hear me though?
I don't. Yeah, okay.
No problem. So could you share with the group how you guys got started? What did that look like? What was your starting point, and how did you move from there?
Okay, back in 2009, I had a very small inheritance and a personal bereavement. So I wanted to do something with it, and I always wanted a market garden. And through talking to different people I knew around and about, I ended up speaking to a guy that worked for Cooperative Futures, who said, why don't you start, because I wanted to buy some land to have this market garden, but he said, oh, why don't you start a veg box scheme in people's garden, so offer it as a service, growing food in their garden, everything from sowing seeds to weeding to harvesting to putting it on their doorstep. So we did that. That was back in 2009. We also ran some training courses in growing organic food, and we struggled to get funding because this is going back a long time. Local food is much more of its time now. But we eventually had a conversation with our local council, and they offered us some commercial work, and that really helped us. And we looked after vulnerable tenants' gardens on a subsidised gardening assistance scheme. So what we've ended up with now, after a few years, is we've got kind of two sides to the organisation, and one funds the other side. Am I all right to carry on?
Yeah, no, please do. Yeah, please do.
Okay. So the commercial side, if you want to call it that, we run gardening on prescription schemes at doctor's surgery and at hospitals. We run retirement villages. We run funeral parlours. We've got private customers. We've got all kinds of things like that in and around Gloucestershire. And then the other side of it is our community growing schemes. We've got 3 of those. We've got a community seed bank, which is possibly one of the most important projects that we've got, where we've got 25 seed guardians grow and save organic flower, herb and vegetable seeds for us. That's been going about 7-8 years now. And we're just starting something called a local community market garden. So we're going to work with other market gardens to grow food to sell within local markets and try and develop some more social hubs within very rural communities. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, fantastic. There's a lot to unpack there, so I'm just going to go through a few bits if you could, because I think it'd be really handy for everyone to understand a little more. So can you tell us a little bit more about the Stroud Seed Bank, kind of where that come from, how you got moving, and what that looks like now?
Okay, it started off just me back about 7-8 years ago, and I just accidentally got into saving seeds because I was growing parsnips. So we've got a what's called a landrace seed now called Thrupp parsnip, and that's mine. I started it about 12 years ago and just decided to let it go its full cycle. So whereas parsnips are, to eat them, we sow the seed and we eat them in the same year. If we want the seed from them, they have to go into their second year. They're a biennial crop. So I just wanted to let this, I know it sounds a bit stupid, but just let the parsnip go its full circle and to flower. And I was absolutely amazed at the amount of insects and hoverflies and bees. And it was almost like it was bubbling. There were so many creatures on it. And then I saved the seed, and from there I grew it for the next year, and so on and so forth. We got to the point where we could afford a coordinator. We could afford to pay for a coordinator, and then we got a group of people together through advertising in all our networks and things, advertising for people to come and join us and save organic seed, and it's gone from there. So we've now got 25 seed guardians, give or take.
Wow.
Ups and downs a bit, and this year we packeted 1,500 packets of seeds, and we give them away in exchange for a donation. So we don't actually sell them, we give them away. We work with local community hubs like Horsley Community Shop and Chalford Community Shop, and we have a range of our seeds there so that people can just go in and have a look and peruse and choose what they want.
Fantastic. Can you just give everyone a very brief explanation as to why you take a donation for seeds? Because we have got some sort of rules and regulations that need to be applied by, don't we? Abided by.
We do have at the moment. I mean, we have organic seed companies like the Real Seed Company, and I think they've battled for quite a few years to actually sell their seeds, and the powers that be are going to come down harder and harder and try and stop us all selling seed and even giving away organic seed. They're going to try and stop that. So for us at our stage, with the limited number of seeds that we grow, it's best for us to give it away so we don't come into any legislation. So there are European lists and things like that, and you have to meet certain standards, and it's actually quite hard work. So we leave that to the seed companies, although we have just started supplying a seed company kind of via a back door. We've got a guy that grows and does testing for the Soil Association, and he's going to do some testing of our seeds. So whether it'll go any further, I don't know. But
you're fine to do exchanges within your community.
Yeah, you can packet the seeds, you can give them away for nothing, you can give them away for a donation. We cannot sell them. So we can't even suggest a price, which people find a bit confusing, but we can't suggest a price. The odd thing is we can grow a plant and have a plant available, and we can sell that.
Yeah. So just so everyone here is aware, if you do want to look into the seed issue, go and do a little bit of homework just to make sure you're not going to do anything that might upset the powers that be, as it were. I think the time's going to come when we all have to fight back on this, but for now, we've got to pick our battles. And so right now, just take some time to look into that. But thank you, Amanda, for that one. In terms of engaging with your community, how have you gone about achieving that?
Well, we meet a lot of people through the commercial gardening, actually, but also running the community growing schemes. We meet a lot of people that way. But we've got a very, very good and very well known and established farmers market in Stroud. And we have a stall there once a month, regardless of the time of year. If we haven't got anything to give away or share, then we just go and take some leaflets along, and people come up and they have a chat, and they like what we do. They like the fact that we're a mostly by donation organisation, and so people will come up. We're advertised we've got social media, Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff that I'm obviously not very good at, anything technical, so somebody does that for us, and we put things out and people just come along. We do film and food nights. So we try and show a film. Yeah, we've just done In Our Hands, which is a lovely film about farming and about what we need to do in terms of regenerative farming to move forwards. And people bring and share food, and it's just a nice night. So we do things like that as well, and lots of workshops. So anything really that gets our profile out there.
Fantastic. And do you find that people kind of have flooded to you in increasing numbers in more recent years?
Yeah, definitely. And when COVID hit, we couldn't give enough seeds away. We had people from London all over the place were emailing us saying, can we have some of your seeds?
Fantastic.
So it's definitely, it's increased year on year, all of the stuff we do. And actually we get people, organisations and schemes that approach us now. Like we've just been approached about setting up a gleaning. Have you heard of gleaning project?
I feel like I have. Do you want to give us more detail?
Yeah, gleaning is where you get a group of volunteers together and they go around to farms after the farmer has harvested, and they go and do a second harvest, and then they put that into their local community. Fantastic use of time.
It's always, if a farmer hasn't got people to come and do that, just run some animals through there, we'll make the most of it. So fantastic, thank you so much. What would you say have been your sort of maybe 2 or 3 biggest hurdles to date, Amanda, in this scheme, with this scheme?
Money, always money. We rely a lot on volunteers, but we're also part of our objectives is to provide self-employed opportunities. So nobody in Down to Earth is paid on a salary, not even me. We all have to do something else as well, and it makes us more sustainable going forwards. We've got 32 part-time self-employed gardeners that do a variety of number of hours of work for us, and we've got 7 project coordinators and seed bank coordinator, all that stuff. So the biggest hurdle is having enough money to do everything we want to do. That's the biggest hurdle. The second hurdle is because although it's a positive being self-employed, that people leave if they can find an employed job. So just get somebody in post, just get them trained up, just get it all working well, and then they go and get a full-time job because it's easier. So that's another one. And also, I think finding land. I mean, we've taken years and years and years to find land, and we've now got sort of about nearly 3 acres, probably in various different guises, and that's difficult. That's really difficult.
What would be your advice to, in terms of what you've learned? And it sounds like clearly there's still the ongoing battle of finding land, but what would be your advice to a community group in another area in terms of approaching finding land to do this type of thing?
Talk to everybody and anybody you can. Talk to your local parish councils, your county councils, district councils. Find out if they've got land. It's much cheaper for them to let you have a bit of spare land that they have to pay to mow the grass of, and you have it for maybe a £5 a year to have a community growing scheme on, for example. That's what we do, a couple of sites like that. So I would contact them. I would also, maybe put a little advert in the paper or on social media saying there's a group of us, we'd like to start this project growing food for the community. Anybody got any spare land that we could borrow? I would have caution against borrowing people's gardens. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If you fall out, it can be a bit tricky getting your food out. But some people have land, so they might have a field behind their house, for example, and they're quite happy for you to borrow a bit of it. So that's been quite useful. But just get the word out with as many people as you can. Just say we're looking for land, and then also look at other groups, so transition movements, anything that's connected in any way.
Yeah. Have you ever approached farmers about it? Have you had any response from them, if you have?
We have. We tried, back in 2012, we tried to set up a food strategy for could we feed Stroud? And with that, we rang a few farmers, and they actually really didn't want to talk to us at the time. They're very busy, and I get it. They have a lot of pressure in terms of growing enough food and growing enough crops and harvesting and being able to sell into a market that's actually at times is very difficult. Apparently a lot more farmers want to become organic farmers, but they just don't feel they have the time or the knowledge to do it. So with the farmers, yes, we have, but they are also very canny business people. And so we went to see one farmer, for example, and what was a 2 hectare field, so it should have been about most £500 a year to rent this 2 hectare field. He wanted £1,000 a month because he thought we'd have loads of money. So they're canny as well. They'll try and get money out of you if they can. But I don't know if that answered your question, really.
No, it's good. It's good. I'm always for a bit of candid conversation, Amanda. I think honesty is always the best policy. So no, I appreciate your honesty. And this is something.
Sorry, just one final thing. I would look for the quirky things of farmers that are around your area. So we've got a farmer called Simon, and he runs a farm called Flaxland. He grows flax as a plant. He makes it into linen. He makes it into clothes. He puts it over boats. He makes the oil and he waterproofs the boat. So we try and work with him. We promote his workshops, and he comes and does some ploughing and things for us, and he doesn't charge us very much. So I would think joining with quirky people is a very good thing as well, and anybody organic.
Yeah. No, brilliant. Thank you so much. It is something that we're going to be doing from, I went on this journey probably 15 years ago, 20 years ago, maybe the first time I started looking for land, and farmers are always very difficult to converse with. But as we're seeing things play out now, farmers are in a different position to where they were 15, 20 years ago. So I think you'll find, and I'm not just meaning you, Amanda, I think sort of everyone will find that shifting, and PFFA want to help lead the way in doing the connections and having the conversations with farmers, because some of them have got the bank snapping at their heels, and actually there could be a kind of swapsy situation, a little bit of land, and maybe in return some free labor and some help with distribution and so forth. So
yeah, definitely.
Absolutely see that this is going to be key moving forward, and PFFA will be doing what they can to help have those conversations. So no, thank you for that. That's fantastic. What is your bottom line key advice for a group who want to get started? And I mean, you know, looking at things from that team building through to, you know, the implications of what your time commitments need to be, because obviously I found when I've done these things in the past, people don't realize it's actually quite time consuming and you've got to be committed. Would you suggest that would be the same, Amanda?
I do. I do suggest that to be the same. I would, however, if you get a group together, and I've seen it time and time again, some really good people getting together in a group and all they talk about is policies and websites. Forget it, just start growing and then everything else will follow on.
Yeah.
But don't worry about policies and websites straight away. It's something you can develop over time, but get something growing and get people looking at what you're doing.
And it doesn't have to be perfect. Something I've learned, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's organic. It will get better and it will grow as you go. And one man said a very wise thing to me one day when I was setting up one of these groups and I was getting a little bit panicky that I ain't got this in place and I didn't have this bit of equipment. And he said, it's a seed, plant it. It'll either grow or it'll either grow or it won't. And that was it. It's actually the simplicity of stick it in the ground, grow it, and it'll either grow or it won't. And you know, you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah, I think the other thing is group dynamics can be quite tricky. Some people are very motivated, but it might not be long-term motivation. It might be quite short-term, but it's about directing that energy and get them doing something they feel satisfaction from that is actually beneficial for your group. You know, tricky dynamics is just finding them something to do that they really want to do, because you will get tricky dynamics, you always do. They're people and they're passionate about what they're doing. So but it is very time consuming, really time consuming. And so is that I can't remember what it's called now, but there's that you know, about where you learn to wait for your rewards at a much later time. You know, the marshmallow test, the marshmallow thing, I think it was called. Children were saying, they're given marshmallow saying if you don't eat it within 5 minutes, when I come back you can have 2. And those, they followed them up, and those that did better in life, depending on what you want to call better, they're the ones that saved the most marshmallows. So I think it's about deferred gratification. I think that's what it's called.
Yes, what we found over helping create PHA and in turn PFFA is actually when we're meeting with new volunteers, one of the best things to do is say, what do you enjoy? What are you passionate about? And then try and guide them into a kind of role that suits who they are, because then there's going to be more longevity and more commitment and people feel more comfortable and happier. And absolutely agree with you. But it can be challenging at times. However, we know it's a big commitment. We know it's a huge amount of work, but what we need to do is always remember, what is the alternative?
Absolutely.
If we don't do this, what happens? And the fact is, we've lost control, for want of a better word, but we've lost control of our current food productivity in the UK, well, across the world. And we need to take that back. And we can talk and we can moan and we can type all over social media, but there's nothing quite like going out there and doing it, you know, and making it happen.
Totally agree.
How are you finding, what are your kind of predictions, your plans and so forth for the remainder of 2023, Amanda?
Well, quite exciting at the moment. We've just been approached by somebody who's got a country house. They do weddings, one of these big posh places, but he's also got a 3-acre field and he's very keen to get community in there and doing things. So we're having conversations with him about that. And then we've got 2 other people that are interested in land. So we're frantically trying to do fundraising because it's all gets very stretched. So there are priorities. One thing I will say is we're buying as many seeds as we can. We only ever buy organic. We buy them from specialist organic suppliers and not Stuttons that do an organic range.
No.
And we're buying more than we need because we don't know what's going to come in next year.
And I would highly recommend people do the same and store them somewhere tight, air-free, tight and dry.
Definitely.
And if you can, is there any information on your website about how to save seeds and so forth?
I think there is. Because I'm not very technical, I leave that to other people. So there should be. There's certainly a brochure on there about the seeds we've got, which it looks quite professional. But there should be. But there should be.
Sammy, can you hear me? Can you pop the Down to Earth Stroud website in the chat, Sammy, or Has, if you wouldn't mind? That would be fantastic, just because I know Amanda can't right now from where she is. And someone put in the Real Seed Company, I think they said, and yes, absolutely agree. It's where I've been buying my seeds from for years, and I've watched them grow at quite an exponential rate over the last few years. It's been staggering, actually.
Yeah, they're brilliant. They're brilliant, but they're
Yeah.
very much because we're all getting older, and we need to get the young people in, and that's started to happen. So I think that's going to be something you mentioned about going forwards. I think that's something that's going to get more interesting and more young, because more young people are going to want to get involved, because they're very aware, intuitive, and they can sense, in my opinion, they can sense that we need to change and that something's not quite right. So I'm excited about that, because I don't want to work forever. Much as I like it, I want to retire at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think from our point of view, something we're looking at on the PFFA side is connecting with the PHA side, where young people are concerned, and how we can connect young people to community growing groups and farmers, because for mental well-being benefits that come from being out in nature, that come from getting your hands in the soil, that come from the fresh air and the sunshine and the physical exercise and so forth, are so massively beneficial that later down the line, we can't do it all at once, but that is a connection that we want to make sure moving forward. Is there anything we can put a shout out into this group and thus out into the atmosphere of things that you'd like at the moment, a wish list? So clearly some fresh young stock to come in.
Yeah, and it's always funding,
Yeah,
a lot of us do a lot of things without getting paid, and that's perfect. I'm not having a moan or criticism about that, because money's just a facilitator anyway. It doesn't mean anything anymore. So but we could just do with more, so we can get more land and get pay people as much. We like to pay people. So yeah,
absolutely. And we'll get, before the end of this, we'll get the website into the chat so you guys can go and have a look and see what Down to Earth are up to. Right, if it's Amanda, is there anything you want to add, or can we open up the floor for a little bit of a Q&A?
No, I think that's fine. I just apologize again for my lack of being able to work the technology to start off with, but no, that's
because none of the team allow me any logins. I'm sorry, Amanda.
That's all right. I just haven't got any screen at all, so I'm looking at a black screen. So if I'm pulling funny faces, I really apologize.
We can't see you at the moment. Your screen's dropped, but we can hear you beautifully, so don't worry. So we're going to start with my colleague Fopper, who's kindly got his hand up for questions. Fopper, did you want to come off mute? Oh, there we got you again, my love. Fopper, did you want to come off mute and ask a question, my lovely? Fopper,
okay, like this?
Yeah, we got you.
Good. Well, first I want to say that I'm really impressed, Amanda, by what you did, and you started so early. It's really beautiful.
Thank you.
During your talking, I have to say that that's how it works with me.
What? Sorry.
That's how it works with me. I'm getting so many ideas. It's crazy.
I knew it'd be an inspiration. I knew she'd be an inspiration, Papa.
But I will keep that quiet now. But definitely there are proven solutions for several points that you're bringing up. One question: did you set up a legal organization? Did you register it, and as what?
We did. We are Down to Earth Gloucestershire CIC, so we're a community interest company. We pay VAT, we pay corporation tax if I don't remember to spend it first. And the new organisation is also a CIC, Local Community Market Gardens CIC. I have found out, because I'm quite interested in legal structures, so I have just found out about charitable incorporated organisations. Apparently you don't have to register with Companies House. You only have to register with VAT if you get to that point, and you're considered a charity for funding purposes. So that's quite worth looking at. So yeah, we are a legal entity. However we go forwards and whatever happens in the crazy world we live in, at the moment we run it as it's a community interest company, so we run it as a community business.
Brilliant.
Right. Did you ever consider to set up an agricultural cooperative?
We started off as a cooperative and didn't find it met our needs or those of our community. When they changed from they were there to serve the community, and then about, I don't know how many years ago now, quite a few, maybe 10, they changed and it was all about serving members. Well, that's fine if your members are really active, but it was all about getting the members involved in doing things and, you know, providing training for members. Everything was about members, and there wasn't anything about community. And so for us, it didn't work, because we really wanted to get out and be in the community, because a member is somebody that can support you, pay a small or large amount of money every year, but then they don't necessarily do anything after that. So yeah, it wasn't for us. So a CIC worked really well.
Okay, well, let me say about this, and I stop here because I don't want to waken up lots of expectations. But I know from the Cooperative Alliance that they are changing their view on many things, and there are some developments going. But I can talk with you about that later.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, we can connect you guys. That's no problem at all. No problem at all. Fopper's got his finger in a lot of pies, Amanda.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Okay.
Thank you, Fopper. Brilliant. I've got Simon up next. Simon Carter, you politely got your hand up, love.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not far away from you, Amanda, just up the road in Tewkesbury.
Oh, I grew up there.
Right. Okay. I'd really like to connect, and I'd really appreciate all the help you can offer, because I'm just getting started. One of the things I'm doing is I should mention I'm setting up as a private members association. I think that's the only way.
Yeah.
But I'm looking to replicate Allot Me, which is a commercial venture for garden sharing, which you call sharing, but I'm planning to do it purely on a sharing basis, no money involved. Putting up a platform for that. I'm curious, you know, why you said that. I can understand the pitfalls, but what's your own personal experience with that, and what can I look out for and try and avoid?
Well, we had this idea because we've got 3 council contracts now working with vulnerable tenants. A lot of council houses have 200-metre square gardens that they really don't want. So it was an idea that was accepted by the council about, we borrowed part of the garden, we fenced it off, we grew vegetables, they could help us grow them, they could have a share of the veg. The issue came because the council decided they needed an allotment tenancy agreement, and the allotment tenancy agreement, it just wasn't going to work. So the council decided they didn't want to do it. My own personal experience is that I had a gardening client, lovely Roy, and he said I could use his veg plot, and I planted some purple sprouting broccoli. And I went there one day in the early parts of a new year. We've had some particularly bad weather back in about, I don't know, 2006, 2007, something like that. And he just pulled them out because he didn't think they looked very nice.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I mean, I want to steer clear of, personally, I want to steer clear of anything to do with the council. They just get in the way, don't they?
Well, and I think sometimes people just want you to look after their garden for you.
Well, if you're growing stuff, what's wrong with that? Great.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. It's not a route we'll go down, but no, I think that's fine. Yeah.
I must be honest, I've done it myself, Simon. There's some really great advantages to working with people in your community in terms of their gardens, but there can be some huge disadvantages. It is a little bit, can swing both ways. If it's people that you really vibe with, you get a really good energy from, then I'd highly recommend it. If it's something in your guts going, not 100%, I'd listen to it, because it can go both ways, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, brilliant. Let me just have a look in the chat. By the way, if you want to ask a question, please do put your hand up, because I can't see everyone on here, and it'll bring you to the front of the queue. I'm just going to check the chat because there were some questions in there. Bear with me. Did you do it? Someone's asked, have you looked into common law and registering through the common law court? We
have, yes. My partner's are very into it, and he's a member of the Gemstone University, so all about gaining sovereignty back. At the moment, I don't want anything personally that stops me doing the work. Anything that we have where we have to restructure or change things or get into conversations with people or legal documents, I'm not interested right now. I think the most important thing we need to do right now is grow food. So I am interested, but I'm not going to do anything right now.
If you were the Minister of Agriculture, here you go, Amanda, here's one for you. If you were Minister of Agriculture, what would you change straight away to deal with the incoming potential food supply issues that we might well have coming at us?
I would get in touch with local county councils and get them to try and encourage, it have to be a financial incentive, farmers to keep the food they're growing within the area first of all. So for Gloucestershire, keep food grown in Gloucestershire, except where we've got a surplus, and then for it to go out. I would also, I'd stop paying off older farmers. You know, I know a lot of them farm non-organically and there's some poor practice out there, but there's some good practice as well. And I don't think we can afford to get rid of farmers when it takes maybe 3-4 generations to make a farmer. So I would stop that as well. And I would do massive incentives to go organic, provide advice and guidance. You know, we've got FWAG. Do you all know FWAG?
Do you want to explain more about that, Amanda?
Yeah, it's Farming and Wildlife Advisory Group, and they're really there to support farmers doing a transition over to becoming organic, apart from other things. But I don't think they do an awful lot of it. There's a bit of a stalemate. So I would really, you know, the way forwards to my mind is small scale organic gardening in the community as near to home as possible. So that's what I would do.
Yeah, for me, it is very much about having all our farmers transition over to that more mixed farming approach. But we within the community support the production. So that transition is going to take a while. Farmers aren't going to be able to necessarily do it all overnight. And in the meantime, we've got responsibility to almost subsidize the food chain with what we can do, whether it be growing our own or whether it be within our local community growing groups. Would you agree?
I would, and I gave a talk the other day, and to my mind, it's if we can grow a bit of food ourselves, start with ourselves first of all, grow a little bit, even if it's just a tomato plant or some thyme or something like that. From there, use your local farmers market and only buy organic. If not, buy from an organic veg box that's as close to you as possible. And then, and kind of that ripple effect going out is then to go out further to buy other things. But always look locally first of all and do what you can yourself. But yeah, mixed farming is very good as well. Yeah.
Also as well, what I would recommend to people is if you have a glut come the end of this season, if you're fortunate enough, you've got a glut, you've got too much, reach out to people in your community who maybe aren't financially in a very great position, so that they can get fresh produce and try it, and then it might encourage them to try growing their own and getting their hands in the dirt and realizing there's a beautiful difference, and also encouraging people to look at eating seasonally, because it's amazing just how much difference that's going to make, where if people can accept a seasonal produce diet, if you like, it's going to make it so much better for us and our farmers in the UK moving forward, and we won't have to import so much, which is actually going to prove to be incredibly important, I think, longer term.
And I think as well, you know, we had a fruit exchange pre-COVID, which is where we got people with surplus fruit in their gardens to take it into a local food outlet, and in exchange they got a drinks voucher. So that was a really nice scheme. Right. Aside from that, we also do encourage people to dehydrate, so to use anything that's surplus if they don't want to give it away, or if there's not enough to give away, or they want to do it, dehydrate it and give it away. Dehydration and food preservation and processing is a very good way of storing food as well. Hungry gap is February through till June, and it's really tricky. It's really tricky to be self-reliant.
We will be doing a big load of information on our new website, which is launching in a week or so. It's not all on there yet. Part of it will be, but we're doing a great big bit on preservation of food, canning, jarring, whatever you want to call it. Like you say, dehydrating, how you prep for the freezer, all sorts of things, even through to smokeries. So there's lots that you can do, and PFFA will be helping on the education side of that, having a load of information on our website so that people can go and have a butcher's, and you know, even your jams, your chuckles, your chutneys and pickles and so forth. I haven't even had a drink yet, and so forth. You know, that's also another way of looking at things. So just have a look into it. Now let me just have a look. Someone's asking some questions on here. Do you have any advice? I like this one. Do you have any advice with regard? I've done guerrilla gardening, so whatever Amanda comes back with, I've got an answer afterwards. Do you have any advice with regards to guerrilla gardening? What is suitable for this? Potatoes, carrots, any hints or tips?
Well, actually, that's a really good point, because when COVID first hit, and then we started, I think it was at the end of the first year, and we recognised there might be food shortages. We advised all of our associates and our colleagues to go and plant some potatoes somewhere in the wild and just leave them, forget about them, and hopefully they'll be there if you need them. So yeah, guerrilla gardening, I've done it with, I'm really keen on walnut trees and nut trees and fruit trees. So we've got a plant rehoming centre, so we get a lot of hazelnuts and walnuts and things brought to us, oak trees as well. So we do go and gorilla those, put them in hedgerows. So, they might get cut, but at least they've got a chance to grow. Yeah, I think that's it. Guerrilla gardening, of course, there's wildflowers. I love my wildflowers.
I was going to say seed bombing. I used to love going seed bombing on council land, and I'd tell them afterwards I've seed bombed, don't cut it, and they wouldn't, they'd leave it, and you'd get wildflowers growing up. But seed bombing, if you want to start gently, that's a good way to get started. But then your pollinators are going to love you for it. So
yeah, absolutely, yeah, definitely, yeah,
fantastic. But yeah, just make sure you balaclava on and go for it. Let's have a look. We've got another question coming through. This is from Alexia. We have a local give a little, take a little food stands to donate food or take a little if you need, like food pantries. That's a lovely idea, actually.
It is. Yeah, that sounds lovely.
If people in their community even could arrange that, is there a space that you can take your produce, your gluts, once a week, leave it in a secure place within your community, and those that are in need can just come along and take what they need? Anything like that, even if that's just a starting point to help get things moving, and maybe you form a group from there. There's no right or wrong with this, guys. It's giving it a go. Does anyone have experience with working a CIC on council owned allotments? Not me personally. Have you got anything, Amanda?
Well, you can't run a business from an allotment site. It's illegal.
Oh yeah.
So a CIC, I don't. If it's a CIC that's set up an allotment, because we run allotments, we've got an allotment site with 60 raised beds on it for people that can't bend and they need help. They can't bend and dig, so we've built raised beds. Got 60 of them on one site. So I'm not quite sure what the question means, actually, if I'm honest.
Right, okay, no problem. They're part of the CIC based in North Warwickshire, so I'd imagine that they've probably got an allotment maybe and are looking to use that as an opportunity. But Amanda's right, if it's a CIC, technically, you're a business, so you wouldn't be able to run anything off there. That's not to say, though, you couldn't source another little bit of land and do that. So maybe pursue that. Or a big one, guys. I'm one who likes to, take the bull by the horns. Now, when I did it before, I literally rocked up at the council and said, right, guys, I need to set up a community growing group. What land have you got for me?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a really good idea.
And just look at them. and until they get really uncomfortable. So there are ways you can do it, and you can be a little bit cheeky. It's not cheeky, it's public land. If it's doing nothing and it's sat there, and it's great if you've ID'd a spot as well and say, look, I know nothing's happening there. I've watched it for the last 2 years, it's become overgrown. I know there's no planning for it. So please, could we have that land for nothing? And we'll grow food on it and take care of it, and go and ask the question. Because if you don't ask, you don't get as well. So, right. Anyone else got any other questions? I can't see any hands up. So if you need to put up your little yellow hand that comes up, that would be fantastic. I'm just going to have a quick look through, make sure I'm not missing anyone. Because now is your opportunity, guys, to ask the questions.
Can I just mention something might be an idea about if you do get a bit of land and you want some volunteers and people to join in and get a health benefit from growing, is to use your social prescribers at the doctor's surgeries and hospitals. They're really keen to recommend people over to you.
Okay, can you tell us a little more about that, Amanda? Just a little bit more detail, what that involves?
I think they're everywhere, certainly in Gloucestershire. We've got social prescribers, which are funded by the government and county council, and they're attached to 1, 2 or 3 surgeries. And it's their job to, if somebody is recommended to them, say the doctor says, go and see the social prescriber could say, oh, so you like physical activity, you think you'd benefit from going and growing with this group of people. So they can recommend that they come and join in with you. And it's a lovely way to attract volunteers into your schemes, is through the gardening, through a social prescriber. So I would find out what social prescribing there is in your area, because in Gloucestershire we've got art on prescription, gardening on prescription, nature on prescription, loads of things on prescription. It's just a way of trying to get people back into community without having to have medication. So that would be worth.
I actually like that. That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Equally, you could connect with any local groups if there's some mental health well-being groups locally. You know, it might be worth reaching out if you've got like a local youth club or young people's group. You could reach out to them. You know, there's lots of possibilities for getting people involved.
Community payback teams as well. We work with community payback.
What's that about, my love?
It's run by probation, and we get a team of anything from, could be 2 or 3, but it's usually about 8 to 15 people that have been naughty, and they're doing their payback to the community, and they come and dig for us, help us put terracing in, whatever we need them to do. We get them once a week for a whole day.
What's the feedback you get from the guys and gals who come along to do that? How do they find it?
Most of the time, if they've got anything about them at all, they love it. They absolutely love it. Some of them are already that way, because we get quite a lot of people like Extinction Rebellion people that have been arrested, and they love coming along because they can get involved in something that's very green, in inverted commas, if you're into that. And you know, some of the guys particularly, because a lot of what we do, like putting terraces in a steep bank, so we've got something to level to walk on, they like that very physical stuff. Others are, you know, we get the odd surly one, but most of the time they're a really good, very positive group of people, male and female, but mostly male.
Fantastic. I love that. I love that sort of stuff. We just got another question in the chat come up. Bear with me. I think that's several parts of the question. Can you give seeds and produce away? Yes, you can, can't you?
Yeah.
And can you accept donations instead of trading as a business?
Yes, if you get donations for any element of your business, it doesn't count towards turnover. So we try and do, that's another reason for doing things by donation, is it doesn't go towards turnover, so it doesn't count towards any VAT or tax.
Fantastic, fantastic. Any final questions before we go off and have a nice relaxing evening? Oh, and he's asking, sorry, can you swap seeds for a donation? I do believe that is the case.
Yeah. The other thing that I've made my own wine for years, about 20 years, and I love it. I absolutely love the whole alchemy element of making my own wine. But my partner is into making cider, and he's new to it. And it's really, really hard work to make cider. But another thing is to set up groups. To have a cider group, you know, particularly men around these days, you know, the mental health stuff I think there's a lot of need for men to do things with other men, as well as women do things with other women. But that would be really good, is set up a cider club. It's a nice way of using apples as well.
Yeah, my local village, they do that. And every year it's quite the event, actually, quite the weekend, because they do a lot of the pressing over a weekend. And it's big picnics and barbecues, and it's a whole big event, and bring the family. And actually, it works beautifully. So yeah, utterly agree with that one. And then you haven't got a glut to worry about, have you?
No, I mean, we always leave some for nature. We never take everything ever. So if somebody said, because we've got farmers here that can't get community in to harvest apples that have fallen on the floor,
right? So
we would take some and use windfalls for the cider. Good ones we can give away for people to eat, but also make sure we leave some for wildlife.
And also as well, actually, if you've got a load rotting on the ground, get them straight up and give them to the local pig farmer. He'll appreciate it. So there's no wastage at all. Right, definitely. Last question is coming in from Hope. Hope, do you want to come off mute, my love? Possibly. No, okay, no worries. No, oh no, hang on. Have you got a question, Hope? Because you're on mute, my lovely. No, I think someone else with technical issues, probably. It seems to be the day for it. It's poor Sammy's had a day of it. Guys, thank you so much for coming along this evening. It's been fantastic to have you all here. Amanda, thank you so much for your time. We're going to get this recording out.
That'd be lovely. Thank you. I've got some colleagues who'd like to listen to it, and they'll just laugh when they know about the start of it. When me with technology, they'll just know, oh, that's Amanda.
Yeah, no, yeah. The rest of my team are the same with me. I'm not even allowed logins for stuff. They're quite wise to me now. But guys, thank you so much for coming along. We'll get the recording out over the next day or so on our channels, and do keep your eyes peeled. We'll be having more of these types of conversations from a number of different organizations across the UK, and we'll keep moving forward. And no doubt Amanda will come back in a few months down the line and give us an update as to where they're at, and maybe some handy hints for that particular time of the season. So thank you all so much. God bless, and have a lovely evening. Thank you.
And you too. Bye bye. Thank you.
Has, can you stop the